Yeah, well, how do I turn it off, though, or does it matter? Should I not turn it off? All right. So this mic is hot, and they told me to keep it, so it will always be hot. You can pass it.
There we go. Good afternoon. You'd think I would know more about audiovisual equipment here. I want to welcome everybody here and everybody that's watching live on Facebook and is listening to us on the radio right now to the USNMR Town Hall put on by Colonel Weems.
All right, thanks. Thank you, and welcome everybody. Welcome everybody here in the room. Thank you so much for coming. A special welcome to all of our support agencies around the outside of the room. You guys always show up. You take time out of your schedules to come here. The U.S. community would not be able to do what we do without you, of course. And at some point while you're here, you will find yourself making use of these folks around here. So you should try to get to know them if you can. But thank you very much for coming to the town hall. Of course, school is getting out right now, so we'll have folks trickling in as we go. But we do these twice a year. We do one in the early spring, which is this one right here. We also do one in the fall. And then the other two things we do during the year are we do a all hands or an all call. Usually that's before the winter break and then before the summer break. So that's what we'll have for the next one of those. But thank you so much for coming. What we do here in the town hall is I have a panel members here. I'm going to introduce each one of them. They're going to say a couple of things, and then we will open it up for the Q&A session. But as he was talking about, I'm Colonel Max Weems, the U.S. National Military Representative to SHAPE, and it's a tremendous honor to be the visible head of the U.S. community here. Although I don't really have a lot of authority, that's where these folks come in. They're the ones with the authority and the resources. I do work for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and one of the things that we're supposed to be doing as a USNMR is to be the community coordinator. So this is one of the ways we exercise that community coordination job. We also have a monthly meeting called the Community Commanders Council, where the panel members you see with me and a few other folks that are also in the crowd today, we come every month and we talk about issues around the base. We share information, and ideally we try to take things off each other's plates and solve each other's problems in a very collegiate atmosphere. But that happens every single day. So even if the problem that you have doesn't necessarily get fixed by your chain of command, rest assured that somewhere up that chain it's going to go across at the CCC, if nothing else, and then we can work together to solve the problem. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce each of the panel members. First of all, we have the Base Support Group Commander, Colonel Jake Jacobs.
Thank you very much. Mine works. I was working on my Johnny Bravo. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I am Jake Jacobs. I'm the Base Support Group Commander here at SHAPE. So what does that mean? If this is your first one, I'm kind of like a U.S. Army garrison commander, except for I have nothing to do with the U.S. Army. So everything that I do here is I spend NATO money to provide facilities for NATO, not American specific. So I do have a soft spot in my heart for Americans because I am an American. But at the end of the day, I have to balance the needs as an American across 29 different nations. And as Colonel Weems just said, the important thing with us is if you have something, if it's on this installation, then it probably belongs to me. So if you go on SHAPE today, and it's SHAPE 2, numeral 2, day, then underneath my picture, you can click on there and you can send a message to me, and I'll get on whatever it is. And if it falls under somebody else's lane, then I'll let you know where it fits, and then I'll pass you off to Kurt Connell. Colonel, one each. Who's next?
Thank you, sir. Oh, that's loud. So, Colonel Kurt Connell, I'm the U.S. Army Garrison Benelux Commander. How many folks that are in our studio audience live have been to one of these before? Show of hands. Okay, so most of you. How many folks have not been to the newcomers brief that ACS puts on once every 2 weeks? So a couple of you haven't been to that. All right. I ask those questions because I'll be very brief here, since most of you should know this information then. But my garrison stretches across 3 countries, and even though it's called Benelux, the countries are actually Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. I have communities here in this area, so Chev's Air Base and Damarie across the street. My headquarters is at Damarie, and we're moving over to Chev this summer, right around the time I change out of command, so hopefully I won't have to move my office. And then I have a community up in Brussels that supports NATO headquarters, and a community out in a place called Schinnen in the Netherlands, in the tri-border region between Germany, the Netherlands, and Belgium. And they support primarily JFC Brunsum. So my garrison exists to support NATO, much as he owns kind of the NATO piece here, and he is the U.S. community leader here. We're providing U.S.-level services and resources. So a lot of the people around the room are actually resourced through the garrison, and then we provide that to those NATO communities. But I report to U.S. Army Europe, and I do have tasks and missions associated with U.S. Army Europe as well. So that's why I'm here, because as he said, or as the NMR said, in some cases I'm the money guy, or I have the personnel assets to solve some of these problems. But we exist entirely to support the mission here and these mission leaders. So if you have issues, as they both said, you pass them up to us. It doesn't matter who you give it to. We will get it to the right person, get it fixed. I would like to thank Colonel Max Weems for putting this on. Especially because at each of those different communities that I have, there's sort of a different level of synergy. It doesn't exist yet, but where we can bring all the leaders of the American communities in that area together. But Colonel Weems has really taken it to heart of building a sense of U.S. community here in this area, and hosting events like this, and the CCC and the All Call are vital to ensuring that we all as Americans can solve our problems collectively. So thanks, Max. And I will turn it over to Colonel Summons.
But before I let you go any further, of course, that is not me. That is my team here. I got the USNMR to thank those folks for setting this up. We all got the Deputy here, Lieutenant Colonel Williams, Chief Wong's a lead. And then we also have our junior ROTC cadets over here doing child care, making this whole thing possible. So a lot of folks behind the scenes making this possible. So thank you, guys. Please.
How are you guys doing this afternoon? I'm going to ask one more time. How are you guys doing this afternoon? All right, I'm going to turn this into a pep rally, all right? No, I'm just kidding. What I like to say is my name is Colonel Yolanda Summons. I go by YR. And I have been the commander of the SHAPE Healthcare Facility for about 8 months. Not only am I the commander for the SHAPE Healthcare Facility, but also for the one that's in Brussels, where I have an OIC that's out there, so not here and there, so if you're able to receive care from both venues. But bottom line up front, we are here for you. And the reason I say that, my command philosophy is very, very simple. It's person first. You know, I ask my staff to take care of themselves, because if they can't take care of themselves, they won't be able to take care of you. Second is peers daily, meaning that they can't just take care of themselves. They got to reach across the aisle, and hopefully their Pat is talking to the X-ray folks, or whatnot. But our mantra is patience always. So having said that, that is my command philosophy. As a patient, you are the first and foremost of everything that we do. And we look forward to servicing you. My expectations here today is not to speak a lot, but maybe to answer some of your questions. As far as where I focus on is readiness for those that are in uniform. And then second, access to care, making sure that when you do want an appointment, you are able to get one. We have same-day appointments. We actually, I have 2 people here that actually, my DCA and my GPM, which is my group practice manager. Raise your hand, because you guys are going to be famous. Trust me. All right. And matter of fact, how many people in here have TRICARE or TRICARE beneficiaries? You see those 2, and boy, do they have 3 gifts for you. Come on, raise your hands up high. All right, cool. There we go. Make sure you take notes. No, I'm just kidding. But they do. They have gifts for you. But having said that, that's what I offer. I look for all your questions. I want the ones that are hard. Again, readiness is number one for us, so that's what we're focused on. And then access to care, making sure that you get appointments when you want appointments. And then if I had a third one, it would be patient satisfaction. I know that I can't please everybody, but by gosh, I do. We sure do try. Fair enough? Cool.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Bernadette Schluter. I'm the principal of SHAPE American Elementary School. We provide education for approximately 550 students, half of which are American, and the other half are international students coming from NATO countries and Partnership for Peace countries. We work very closely with 13 other international schools on base, and that includes the American Middle School and the American High School. I do have some announcements that I have to make. Planning ahead, re-registration is April 23, 24, and 25 at SHAPE High School. All the schools, all the American schools registrars will be there to make it easier for everybody who have children in all American schools. And then registration for new kindergarten will be April 26 all day at our school, as well as April 27 only in the morning. Now, Park, we have a summative assessment. It used to be turnover, but now it's called Park. And it will start on April 18 and end on May 4th. It'll be a different one grade level for 4 days, grades 3, 4, and 5. And actually, I'll be sending out an email to the parents with the schedule, with a specific schedule. But students will be assessed only for math this school year. It's math this school year, and then math and language arts for next school year. Planning ahead, first day of school for the next school year is August 16th. That's Thursday. And first day for kinder will be August 23rd. As always, my door is always open, so if you have any questions, feel free to come to the school, even without an appointment, and I will see you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Whitney. I'm the principal of SHAPE American High School. And I'm already at the January 2019 semester exam schedule because we're planning ahead. I had a senior come in today asking me about the semester exam schedule at the end of this semester. And when I went into my files, I popped open, I thought I was working on that, but it was the one in January, the following school year. So we do a lot of planning at the school level for what's coming ahead. But as far as what's happening now at the high school, we are in quarter 3. We have 2 more weeks left, so it's coming up quick to the end of quarter 3 prior to our 2-week spring break. But in the meantime, we have course awareness and course selections going on with the high school students. How many of you are parents of high school students? Okay. And how many of you are parents of 8th grade students? Any parents of 8th grade students? Okay, so I just want to give you some information. The high school, the students have to take 26 credits for their diploma, and it's certain types of courses that must be met in order to get that diploma. And so just this afternoon, we met with all the 9th through 11th grade students in the cinema and went over a briefing with them of what types of courses they will have next year, what they need to use, different resources that they need to use, their graduation status report, so it shows what they have, what courses are being offered next year, and we have some major changes. So some of the major changes for next year involve the Career and Technical Education Department, because we're focusing on pathways for endorsements within certain careers. And some of the new career pathways that we have, we're in our 2nd year of the therapeutic services, so we will have students take exams for certified nurse assistants certificates, and they'll be employable right outside of high school. We have culinary arts. Students can get endorsement in culinary arts. We're adding next year cybersecurity, programming, videocom we've had, business management we've had as well. Digital design and communications is changing a bit. And then the cybersecurity involves coding and national security. But we also have a pathway called national security, which is basically our JROTC program. And students can take up to 4 years of JROTC. And we have a fabulous JROTC program, and I'm sure many of you are aware. Just recently, a couple of weeks ago, they were the 6th-year champions of the European Drill Championships. So they just do an amazing job. They were distinguished unit. Our program was rated as distinguished unit last year. We have visitors coming this week to inspect our program again, and we're looking for the same classification for our BE 931 JROTC program. We also have some new math courses next year, and we're excited about having the new course Financial Algebra, because this will give, it will probably be a terminal course, a senior course for the most part, but it will give students those experiences that they need for future planning with finances and credit cards and management of monies and so forth. We'll also have an advanced qualitative reasoning course that will replace our advanced functions course. So students who are in the 8th grade, we're going to meet with them on the 27th of March at their seminar to give them information about the high school courses and what's expected of them. But we'll also have an informational meeting with parents the evening before, March 26th. So we will get that out through the middle school to parents so that they're aware of that, and it will be at the High School Information Center at 5 p.m. The high school students who attended today's session, they'll be coming home with resources. They should be talking to their parents about the course selections that they'll be thinking of and taking for next school year. But starting next week, we'll be meeting with them during their seminars for them to input that into the computer. So there's a little bit of time for them to think things over and talk with their parents. So following the spring break, we enter our PARCC testing as well. And PARCC is spelled P-A-R-C-C, and it stands for Partnership for the Assessment of Readiness of College and Career. At the high school level, it looks different than it does at the elementary level. So they're only testing certain courses: Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and any sophomore who's taking language arts or honors lit. So it's going to affect the overall schedule at the high school. So what we're doing is designing 2-hour periods so that there is not a lot of confusion while some are testing and some are in periods. So there's a whole new schedule. It'll be in the bulletin, and any of you who are parents of the high school know you have the bulletin with all that information. Following the PARCC testing is AP testing. We also just started our spring sports season. It may not feel that way today, but yesterday, for example, we had the Shamrock Shuffle that was sponsored by the senior class at the high school, and it was excellent weather and a really good turnout and good results too. So the sports season will be going on till the end of the school year or towards the end of May. We'll enter AP testing, and soon it is June and graduation, and that's what we're looking forward to on June 8th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I attended the Shamrock Shuffle yesterday. It was a great event, and I believe it was the high school track coach that finished first place. He is a beast. He was like sprinting the whole way. It was crazy. Okay, thank you very much. And just because the panel members are up here doesn't mean those are the only experts that we have. We have several folks that are points of contact or subject matter experts or the bosses of their areas in the crowd here too. So as these questions come up, don't be surprised if someone pops up out of the crowd to answer the question. Okay, I do have some questions to go with. However, obviously the honor falls to the folks here in the room. So we'll get started with the Q&A session if the panel members are ready. And whoever has their first question, please raise their hand. We've got guys with microphones that are walking around to bring a microphone to you.
Good evening, thank you. My question is to the high school principal, please. In regards to the preparatory training that they need for college, whether it be SAT, ACT, or even the ASVAB testing. Is there anything we can do to get these kids more involved? And by that I mean you have a lot of information on that bulletin that's emailed to us. It's just a matter of capturing what needs to be done on the correct
Well, we offer different types of testing at the school, depending upon the situation. So we have in October the PSAT testing. SAT testing is done external. Not all of our students are required to take the SAT test. So there is a schedule. We do have a POC, but that is not a quote-unquote school-sponsored testing, but it is made available, and there is a schedule for that. One of the things about the bulletin is there's lots of information, but if you see the top section, useful links, if you click on those, then it opens up to either a website or a file that has more information on those topics. So you should look over that carefully. And also down at the bottom of the bulletin is a counselor section, and there's lots of links there for college information and various types of deadlines and so forth. Students who take the PSAT get an online, their own personalized online pages in College Board, and that has a lot of information. One, to help them with areas, it shows the areas of strength and weakness in the language arts and mathematics for the test taking. And it offers them then some sites to go to, and there's a Khan Academy site that gives them tutorial help to strengthen those skills. So those are some things that you should take advantage of. The school also offers the AP testing, but students have to be enrolled in the course. So if they're enrolled in the course, they will be signed up for the test. It's done within the school day. And if they take the test with the associated course, they get an elevated GPA for that. So that's very useful as well. The counselors put out bulletins, timelines for important dates. They also meet with the students, and presently they're going through a cycle of having students look at their four-year planning documents. So again, good information there. And we do have the ASFAB coming up, and that's done by a community member at the school site, but there's only a certain number that can participate in that. So I don't know if that's one of the tests that you're referring to, but usually it's seniors that take that test. So is that enough information about the testing, or was there anything else? Okay.
Okay, thanks. And I know, I'll just make a couple of comments here. We've got another question here. If this is your first time in Belgium, you're about to see one of the best times of Belgium. Springtime, especially early June, it gets really, really nice here. You're going to see the Shape Fest tent going to be coming up soon. And then the first event we usually have of the year is the Belgian festival. It's the Taste of Belgium, or the Toby. And then party season has started, and it goes all summer long. And it's a great time here. So I know it's been a difficult winter, but it will be a really, really nice spring and summer. Please, another question in the front.
Yeah, this is Mike Morrow. I was wondering if we could get an update on what's going on construction-wise here at Shape and out at Chev. And I know we've got a lot of stuff going on at the high school too, so I think, and the route to Ott is under construction now. So I think construction might be a topic of interest to a lot of us.
You want to go first? You want me to go first? Okay. So here's what we have. So if you drive around Shape and you go over by the Shape Club and you see the roads all dug up and everything, so we started this place back in 1967. It's when they built everything, and we've built nothing new since then. So everything that's here on the installation is old, needs to be replaced, and there's a lot of construction that's coming up in the future. So we're doing it incrementally, if you will, so we can, when we start to build the new buildings, we don't put a brand new building on top of 50-year-old pipes. So the first thing was water mains, where sewer is next, and then the next big construction, other than over at the schools, is we're going to start rebuilding the housing, starting over by the apartments that are over by the gas station. So the Belgian contracting company is going to come in probably January of 2019 and start. They're going to build new apartments. I don't know what they look like just yet. The contract was just awarded, and we kind of have the overall plan, but don't have a floor plan. As soon as we do, we'll push those out. But they're going to build a building, and then once we move everyone into the new buildings, and they'll tear down a set of buildings, and they'll continue. And then that should probably go for the next 6 or 8 years until they've redone all the housing on the installation. The next big construction project after that will be 2026 when the new, that's what they're telling me right now, is the construction of the new SHAPE headquarters will be 2026. So, to start. Yes. Yes. So it's a little slow. We're grinding through it, but we'll get there.
Kurt Connell again, the U.S. Army Garrison Benelux Commander, for those on the radio audience. I will tell you, first of all, though, my experience thus far has been that once they start the work, it actually goes pretty quickly. So the two buildings that we're building over on Chevs, sort of across the street from the PX and commissary, they really didn't start those in earnest until less than a year ago, and they will be completed in the April-May timeframe. And so that's part of our European Infrastructure Consolidation Initiative. So we are going to vacate Dame-Marie. The future of Dame-Marie is yet to be determined, but we will vacate all the tenants that are there now, and they will move over to Chevs across the street from the PX. So one building will be the new Garrison headquarters, and the other building will be all the rest of the tenants in a co-located place. And we will sign for those again this summer and probably start moving in the July timeframe. So in July, we'll phase everything back across the street and be done with that. I will tell you, and I know it doesn't affect a lot of the people in this room, but our European infrastructure consolidation also affects Brussels and the Schinnen community. They've begun work at what's called the NATO Industrial Complex out where, which is right across the street from JFC Brunsum, or pretty much across the street. And so the things that are at the Emma Mine Compound, which is what everyone calls U.S. Army Garrison Schinnen, will move from there in a couple of years across to the Nick site. So they've started work there. And then they've started work as well up at Steerbeek. So for those of you who are familiar with Brussels, what we call Brussels, Maine, is a 4-building compound that we are renting just a couple of kilometers away from NATO headquarters. And then out where the school is, Brussels American High School and middle school and elementary school, that's Steerbeek Annex, and the health clinic is out there, among other things. So DODEA is building a new school out there, and when they build the new school, I will take custody of the old school, and then we will begin renovations on the old school to turn that into office space, and then we'll vacate everything out of Brussels, Maine, and stop paying rent on those buildings and move it over to Steerbeek. So again, that work has begun. The first part of that work is they're building a new sports field out there, and that, as I said, they've already got the ground all tore up for that. And then once they get the new sports field in, where the current sports field is where DODEA will build their new school. Some other upcoming things, and John Phelan, I might throw a lifeline here if you know the timeline, but DODEA district headquarters is moving to our footprint, and so they will build a new headquarters building on Chevs as well, behind where the lodge is. So there'll be a new building built out there, and we'll bring in the folks that run district, what they now call, I think, District West. Used to be the Lakes District, but it's District West now. We'll build that. And then finally, and I'm not trying to get anyone super excited or get your hopes up, but we are in the process of doing a study right now about putting family housing on Chevs. And the current recommendation right now is about 240, 250 family housing units. And, of course, that will come with a lot of other things, fire station, chapel, those other services that we would have in family housing. So for those of you who may return back here in 10 years or so, you can expect to have some family housing available on post as well. Any other questions about the Garrison piece before I turn it over to the school? Follow-up questions, construction in the Garrison. Okay. I don't know if you have anything you want to add about school. Nope. All right. We're good.
Yeah, I want to continue along that track, if you don't mind. We have a question here that was online. Local roads and streets are full of potholes. Can SHAPE influence local governments to fix these?
Awesome. I'll take that one. The short answer is no. So, on a fairly regular basis, I meet with the Belgian government and the Belgian National Military Representative. It's, one of Max's counterparts. Yes, Belgium has potholes. It is what it is. Here on the installation, yes, we can absolutely take care of that. But once we go outside the gate, not so much.
I remember there was one, if you're not familiar with the history of SHAPE, SHAPE used to be an open base. There really weren't gates, and locals could come and they could shop at the Carrefour with everybody else, and the only real difference was you showed your ID card. However, after 9/11, things changed. Security changed, put gate around, the fencing around, put gates up, and then gradually the numbers of gates have gone down. Well, because of that, it actually caused a lot of traffic at the Berlin gate. And then for a while, there were folks that were either being hit by cars or there were close calls. And there was negotiation and discussion with the Belgian government. That was a big deal. It took a lot to make that happen. But that was a big deal because people were being killed. So I'm not sure potholes is something that we'll be able to get that kind of action on. But there are ways of working with the local community when it is a really big need.
Yes.
Okay, until then, just be ready to replace your shocks when you leave. Auto hobby shop. We have a great auto hobby shop. Have I talked about the auto hobby shop? Okay. We have another question from the audience here. Nothing? Okay, and don't forget, those that are listening live, you can send the questions in via Facebook, and we will take a look at those. We'll try to get them out if we can. All right. Another question is, will the Chevres Lodge be creating pet-friendly rooms? This is very difficult during PCS season. I know we do have some pet-friendly rooms, but maybe they're asking for more? Colonel Connell?
Yeah, appreciate that, Max. There are pet-friendly rooms, and if I understand the question is potentially there aren't enough. So I'll go back and look at that. It wasn't actually, this is the first this has been brought to me directly, but we will go back and look at that. As you know, the lodge is a relatively new facility, and so it's a fairly nice facility. But if we're having more issues with folks having pets, we also have the kennel available as well. And I'll ask Yvette Castro if there's anything you want to add to that. There is? Well, but the people in radio land won't be able to hear you without a mic.
Good afternoon, Yvette Castro, Business and Rec, MWR. So the Colonel is correct. We have 7 wonderful pet-friendly rooms. There are no plans to actually increase that number because we are also the only garrison in Europe that has a kennel on site. And because of that fact, we're not really allowed to increase the number of the pet-friendly rooms. If you have not been in the kennel lately, please go and have a look if you're a pet owner or if you're going to become a pet owner. It's a fantastic facility. So that answer was verified by the lodge manager this afternoon. Pending your additional questions?
And I've seen ratings on the Chev Kennel online. I just like anybody else, I'd look to see if there's any kind of ratings. And people actually rated that kennel very highly online. It gets really good comments, especially since the renovations. So it's not just you tooting your horn. This is a really good kennel, and that's been verified by a lot of folks.
We've got doggy daycare and grooming facilities there also. So please come and check it out and utilize it. Thank you.
Ma'am, and if I could add, it may be useful if we can put out some information on kind of what the capacity is for the kennel as well, and what its utilization rate kind of looks like. So, and I would be interested from anybody here in the room or in the listening audience that if you have an anecdote about where there wasn't room at the kennel or room at at the lodge, to let me know those situations, because those anecdotes sort of help us kind of build our business case. I think we have a follow-up in the back.
There we go.
Talking about the kennels, I have an international neighbor that is going on vacation for 2 weeks, and he was wondering if he can use the kennel for his dog.
So I'm going to look to Yvette for a lifeline, but I believe, yes, all our MWR facilities are open to all NATO members.
Again, the Colonel is absolutely correct.
Okay, anything else from the audience here? I don't know. I think you've already used yours for a little bit here, Mike.
And now for something completely different. Is it just me, or are some products not being restocked in the commissary?
That is an excellent question. And first, let me just scan the audience here. Do we have a DECA rep in the room? We do have a DECA rep in the room. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to our DECA rep.
We do have some items coming in, some new line items coming in that are DECA brand. So there are certain items that we are not going to be that are going to be available. For example, Duracell. Duracell is going to be one of the items that we're not going to be carrying. So just to answer your question, we have to make room for our brands that are coming in. So as soon as you walk into the store, right across from the bakery, you'll see all the DECA brands there.
So if I can add to that, and if I step out of line, by all means jump on me. But and this is really true for all of at least the Garrison facilities, and I'm sure it's probably true for the base support group and others as well. But the more they're used, the more business they get, the more variety we can put in there, and the more things that we can sell. And so right now, the commissary has had a reduction in the number of people buying products there over the last couple of years, and so I would encourage you that if you have privileges at the commissary, do what you can to pick up your sort of routine items at the commissary so that we can keep those sales up, because if we keep those sales up, then I can go back and make a business case to DECA headquarters of why we need, more stuff on the shelves. So it's one of those things that you either spiral up or you spiral down. So if we don't use it, then less products come in and fewer people use it, et cetera, and it spirals down. Or if you use it to the most that you can, then more things come in and then more people use it and it spirals up and up. If you look at kind of switching gears a little bit, but at the Bundy that we put in, I believe, I'm not mistaken to say this, but all of the food court has improved businesses now, so it's not necessarily that they're fraterniciding, that was the word I was looking for, where Bundy's taken business away from Burger King, et cetera. It is that now more people go there for lunch because they have more options, and so the more people who go there, all the businesses improve, and as all the businesses improve, we can get even more options, and we're potentially looking at that. So again, use those facilities, and it's not just true for AAFES and for DECA, but it's true for MWR as well, and any of the other businesses that we run.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay. Another question that came in recently. When are the large washing machines at Chev going to get fixed?
I'm going to turn that over to AAFES.
Yeah. The washing machines are pretty old, and they're being fixed by Germans coming in from Germany. And they come out TDY every week or two, and they work on them that way. They need to be replaced, and we're working on getting them replaced, but that's still in the works right now.
And so what I would ask, Joby, if you would, if there's something I can do to influence that and make that, obviously I know. And Joby, by the way, our AAFES manager, who does a fantastic job, really has been beating his higher headquarters up about improvements in the PX, and DECA is doing the same thing as well. I don't mean to leave DECA out, but for example, we're going to have some outdoor lawn furniture this upcoming season that we haven't had available before, but that's because Joby has been saying there's a need here. We get customers asking for this stuff, and so he fights those battles for you. Sometimes, though, it helps if a senior leader sends a note to your higher headquarters as well. So if there's things that I can do to help that out, please let me know.
Okay, I can continue to beat up on Colonel Connell, Colonel Jacobs for a while here, but if we do have other things that we want to ask the other panel members, please feel free to jump in. Okay.
All right, Max, keep beating.
All right, here we go. Are you ready? All right. Are there any plans, and this I believe is for Colonel Jacobs, are there any plans to develop short-term parking when dropping off children at school?
Awesome. Yes. Okay, but this goes with everything that happens in Belgium. I'm not using that as my excuse. It may sound like it. I'm using that as my excuse. But everything that happens here on SHAPE, Belgium actually owns everything here. We're just the user of. So when we have ideas like putting in short-term parking for dropping off your kids, it's one of those things that we've got to run through the process with the Belgian government to get approved to put it in. So as soon as we're done with the schools, and we can get a traffic pattern for short-term parking for the schools, absolutely, it's in the plan, and we'll put it into the Belgian SIPs. I can't remember exactly what that stands for, but it's the guys who take care of security and maintenance and everything of the installation. So I'll get with them, and then we'll get in short-term parking.
Yeah, I've plenty of time myself parked in that neighborhood right there next to the
and
school.
Roger.
I'm sure I'm glad I didn't live right there in that house. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, please.
I have a question for the medical facility.
Hot mic, no.
Thank you. The medical facility, the PHA I just had conducted, and there was a new system. It was completely explained, identifying the fact that there's a need to go ahead and address how difficult it was to get it done. The question I have is, thank you, Major Brown, for the slip, but is there anything being done to assist future service members from getting that passed through the system?
So, yes, but there's a couple of things that are happening that's kind of creating this, almost like, you know how you click a button on your computer and you get this circle, and it keeps going? That's basically what's happening with the new PHA. The PHA is the DoD Periodic Health Assessment. So one is we're being fielded Windows 10. So everybody's getting outfitted Windows 10, and right now we're just installing, but then again there's other things that are not actually connecting. And an example of that is we got to make sure that with the new system we're able to see our radiology images. So that's a problem in itself. Now you have another entire system which basically, instead of the Army just having their PHAs, the DoD, it's a tri-service DHA, meaning that I can do Army, Air Force, and you know, so you have the three, the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. So that was a DHA, a Department of Defense Health Agency, that kind of pushed that out. So we have two things colliding right now. So having said that, so for example, we have, I'll just say 27 in this particular footprint where we're red on our PHAs. And then there's a pipeline that's coming. We have like a 3-month amber stage before they actually go red. So say, for instance, I have 27. I've completed, 4 of those. The system is not updating itself. So we're putting in help tickets as we go. But we're hopeful that we'll keep continuing to do, your PHAs, Dr. Brown. And we're holding those. It's in the system. What's happening is the system is not talking to our higher headquarters. So as soon as they fix all of the glitches, I'm hopeful that the 60 that's building, will, once that switch is fixed and we've actually done those, that it'll drop down to 10 and we'll kind of manage it from that perspective. Does that answer your question? All right. Well, I apologize for that, but once again, we've captured it. We actually have yours. And it is my desire that you not have to repeat it, and I don't think that would be the case. But there is a lag in the system. Thank you. Great question, though.
Okay, we have a question from online, maybe for the principals here. Would it be possible for the students to have a swimming course using our local SHAPE facility during the school year?
The PE courses for the high school, we have a shared gymnasium with the SHAPE International Schools, so we have other schools using the facility, and they rotate through, and it's very complicated. The only course that we would be able to put something like that in is our PAN course, which is Physical Activity and Nutrition. So it's something I have to consult with the teacher and see if that's a possibility. But there's also a schedule of pool use from the other schools, and I know they do it, some of the elementary schools from the international side of the house use that. I'm not sure that the American elementary has swimming classes, but the international schools do. So I'm not sure what the availability is on that.
I guess I could just follow up here. Do we have swimming classes offered to the SHAPE residents just in general?
You grabbed it. I thought you were going to answer it.
Well, I can say from an MWR side of the house that I don't think we have any swimming classes. Is that correct, Sean? You're giving me a thumbs up. Wait for the mic. So Sean Tico in the back, who is our acting MWR director right now, and also our CYS chief. Go ahead, Sean.
So we do offer swimming classes. So we have instructional classes. So it is swim lessons we start as early as 4 years old all the way through until the children usually move on. Shape on the installation has an actual swim club. So usually they go through our Skies classes, age up, and go into the swim club. So there is an opportunity for them to participate in swimming on the installation.
And so the important thing, though, Sean, is get your kids registered in CYS. So again, it's one of those things.
And it's
free. One of those things I talked about, the same with the businesses. You know, the more kids we have registered in CYS, the more activities we can offer, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll keep beating that drum.
And the Shape Swim Club or swim team are the SEALs. You can find information on them on Shape Today. And the only thing about the pool, just so everybody understands, so the pool is old like everything else here. So we have to do yearly maintenance on it. So we'll do that during the large summer block leave period, beginning usually about the end of June through first week of August.
Okay, anything else from the crowd here before I go to the next one? Yes.
Hi, is it possible to expand the weekend hours for the Shape Gym?
Why, yes. Yes, it is. Now, here's the thing that I need, though, is just like Colonel Connell said, is I need to have the throughput. I need people to actually show up on the weekend so that I can extend the hours in the gym. So if you can, go on to Shape Today, and then underneath my picture, click on there, and then propose that so the way I can put it through the formal process, and then we'll give it a trial run, and if people use it, then absolutely.
Yeah, we got to make sure we advertise that. So much around here is routine, so
yes.
Got to make sure we get the word out for folks to change their pattern of behavior.
So if I may, and I'm hoping that Yvette or Sean don't tackle me here, but on Chevs, we will be going and our other communities as well. We will shortly be going to a 24-hour gym system. So now to do that, it requires installation of cameras and processes and procedures, and of course, if you want to use that, you would have to come in during business hours and sign up for it and sign the little waiver form, and then we'll get your card so that you can use the card scanner to get in the door. But we are going to a 24-hour gym on our U.S. Army Garrison Benelux facilities.
And for those of you listening on the radio, you couldn't hear the clapping that was going on in the crowd here. I'm sure there were young airmen or soldiers out there that were going, yeah, as they're listening on the radio. Okay. Next question. This is a little bit longer here, but I think it's going to be for BSG.
Awesome.
It took over 1 month to get an appointment at Building 253 for a passport. Once we completed the appointment, I was told it was going to take an additional 3 months to get these passports back. Is there any way to expedite this process, to include why it takes so long to get a passport appointment at Building 253?
Okay. Well, I'm going to hand that off to Kurt, because actually 253 belongs to him.
All right.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's actually absolutely something that we are looking at, and we are aware of our throughput problem at 253. We do have some additional talent down there right now, so that we can work those processes through faster, and we do try to do things like summer hires and other things during the high turnover month. But we'll go back and take a look at that and see if there is anything else we can do to get that throughput up. I will tell you that the feedback I've gotten, and if you know something different, please tell me, but the feedback that I've gotten is that on urgent cases, I won't say emergency cases, but on urgent cases where you need to get a passport done in a very short order, our staff is usually very good about taking you in, without an appointment and getting you processed as quickly as possible. But we'll look to see if we can expedite it more than a month.
Sir, we have a follow-up.
Yes.
Sir, I have a follow-up question for you. It's in line to that, getting passports. Is there any other way that you can have a walk-in times for dependent IDs Or let's say if you lost your ID, then the member can be able to go there and have it issued?
So ID, I'm assuming you're talking your DOD dependent ID card.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, so that one is me. What I would ask you to do is if you would send me a note, and I'm in the global, kurt.p.connell at mail.mil. Send me a note and what your kind of specific issue is, and we'll incorporate that into kind of some of our planning. So as part of the move from Damarie to Chevs, we're taking a step back and looking at all of our processes on the Garrison side. Now, I will say it's complicated because, any U.S. person that in processes here has a piece they got to do through the NMR, they've got a piece that they have to do through the BSG, and they've got a piece that they do through me. And we try to work together to make those processes as efficient as possible, but we're never going to be perfect. You're always going to have to drive and do some things at Chevs and some things here at Shape, et cetera. But we're trying to process map that out to determine what the most efficient use of your time would be. And that's primarily for in processing and out processing, but also for things like if you need a new dependent ID card, because typically, so you get the dependent ID card, well, now you want to get it IAXed, right? So, what do those processes look like so we can make those more efficient? So we are looking at that, but give me your specific question, if you would, in email.
Okay. So the next online question here. We have two questions that are sort of the same thing, but this one's a little more colorful, so okay. I'll go with this one here.
It's probably mine.
Probably, yes.
Awesome.
All right, parking lot markings.
Yes.
Are faded, sometimes causing one to double park unknowingly and end up getting a ticket. Help.
Okay. So here's the thing. I know that the parking lot out, well, it's what we use for the health clinic, not out in front of Carrefour, but I call it the lower parking lot. Yes, it's absolutely horrible.
Well, it's also used for Shave Fest.
Yes.
And for every other fest.
Yes. So therein lies several problems. So if you get double parked in the lower parking lot, feel free to go ahead and protest that. If that double parking that you happen to be in has like a wheelchair in it, sorry, not going to help you because those are very well marked. But I know that there's a lot of double marked parking down in the lower parking lot. There's several issues with that. It was resurfaced and then repainted, and then the parking. This came up, I think, with my predecessor. The parking spaces weren't big enough for American like SUVs, so we would try to do it on the cheap. So we repainted the lines. We just didn't grind the old ones off. So it gets a little more confusing. So, but there is a plan. So the BSG purchased the line marking equipment so we can do it cheaper and we can do it better and we can redo them more often. So we've got the equipment, we've got the paint, and we have a plan. What we need is the Belgian government has to approve us to actually paint on the parking lot, and then we need good weather, which is probably the longest pole in a tent here in Belgium. So I need about a stretch of about a week. And then not coinciding with Shape Fest, where we can grind off all the old lines and paint new ones.
I always thought the first week in June was the best time.
Yes,
here, so
absolutely.
That's my vote. Okay, I think our housing chief is going to be leaving in a few minutes. So if anyone has any housing questions, I want to make sure we get those taken care of before she goes. I know when I've had visitors on the congressional side, or we have VFW folks that come, and Legion, Foreign American Legion. One of the things that I tell them, is a challenge in this community is housing, and we've talked a little bit about future housing on Chev. It's definitely a challenge for the American community. Different communities here do it differently, so I've definitely have been pushing that and opportunities, high-level opportunities that I have, and because a lot of those resources are much higher level than just use your resources. That goes way back to the U.S. So hopefully, over time we'll keep pushing that rock and we'll see it eventually move.
If I could follow up on that. Does somebody have a housing question? I got more comment on housing there. So again, Kurt Connell for the radio audience, U.S. Army Garrison Benelux. A couple of points, and I make this in the newcomers brief, so those of you who sat in the newcomers brief, at least when I was there, or my sergeant major or deputy, have emphasized these points, but I want to do it again over the radio audience. So First of all, if you're in a private lease, you know, the government's not a party to that lease, and I can't emphasize that enough. We have certain regulatory obligations for suitability of the quarters that we do, inspections, and then there is a whole bunch of things that we're really kind of going above and beyond what we're resourced or required to do just because we know how difficult the situation is. Some of the frustration that we have had in the past is folks then think we are in fact a party to the lease or that we have some authorities. I cannot break a Belgian lease, a lease between you and a Belgian landlord under Belgian law, and Belgian law, quite frankly, favors Belgian landlords. I cannot break that lease for you, except under one condition, and that is if we have government quarters that we can move you into. So if we can say government quarters are available and you're moving into government quarters, then usually in all the leases, particularly the leases that my housing office go over, which I highly recommend you have them do, they'll ensure there's a clause in there that allows us that option. So that's one of the primary reasons why we're going to build housing on Chevs. Is so that we have that flexibility. We'll always have some vacant quarters on Chevs, not a lot, but some flex space, so that if someone does have a problem with a house that they're living in, that they can, you know, we can move them over. I will tell you that very much thanks to the BSG, there have been a couple of cases where they've made housing available on SHAPE so that we could move a family into quote-unquote government quarters and allow them to move out of that. I will also tell you, and some people aren't going to like hearing this, but we went back to Public Health Command and had a number of discussions about, you know, kind of what those suitability standards are. So it's defined in the Army regulations, but for some things like mold, there really isn't a standard. Quite frankly, every house has mold in it in Belgium, every house, and most of the houses in the United States, unless you live in like Sierra Vista, Arizona, or, you know, the Mojave Desert. But other than that, every house has mold in it. And when I ask what's good mold or bad mold, there isn't an answer to that, because at the end of the day, it really depends on the individual person's reaction to it. So one family could live in a house that has mold in it and it doesn't bother them at all and they have a great time there, and the next family could move into that same house and have an adverse health reaction to that mold in that house. So we're doing the best we can with things like that. And obviously if there's, you know, visible black mold, we do humidity checks for the drywalling and the structure itself to make sure that it does meet our minimal standards for being dry enough to live in. But those kinds of things are things that we work through each and every time. But just I wanted to put that information out there. And then the last thing I'll say about housing, for those of you who are in private Belgian leases, and that's most of you, please, please check your meters every month. I cannot tell you the number of times, particularly the active duty, and I think the same thing applies for our civilian employees as well, and when they rectify their LQA utilities costs. But for the active duty, you know, the way the Belgians and most European countries, for that matter, charge you your utilities, they take the last year's utilization, regardless who was living there, of that utility, they divide it by 12, and then the next year, that's what they charge you each month. So if you use a lot more, then you will owe them money at the end of the year. And we've had a number of cases where people have had water leaks that they weren't aware of, and for some reason, water's expensive in Belgium. I mean, it falls from the sky every day, but for some reason it's expensive. But that being said, you got an underground leak you're not aware of, and then when they go to rectify that bill at the end of the year, we have had 10,000 euro water bills for, you know, sergeants and junior enlisted soldiers. So at the end of the day, and if you're a supervisor out there, make sure your folks are checking their meters every month, because the earlier you catch it, the less problem you'll have when we get down the line. So I'll get off my soapbox on that. But we are very attuned to any housing issues, and if you have housing issues, by all means, bring them forward to our housing office, and we'll do what we can to help you.
Great, thanks. Anything else on housing? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay. This might also be for BSG. Yeah. Are there? It's, you know, it's one. You have these, and sometimes it's the schools that are the star, you know. Sometimes it's, you know, these two guys. Sometimes it's the clinic. So you never know. What's that?
She's happy.
You're okay with that? All right. Are the playgrounds on SHAPE? Are there playgrounds on SHAPE that can be used outside of school hours?
Ooh, okay. So I'm going to say I don't know, but I will find out, and I'll put out the information. Now, I know that I've seen, you know, on the weekends, kids playing on the, you know, on the playgrounds over at the elementary school. There's playgrounds over by the you give me hand and arm signals? Oh, sorry. And there are playgrounds over by the housing area. It's the Canadian school area, and I know kids play on it, and the IMPs or the International Military Police don't throw anybody off of it, and unless somebody complains, I don't see an issue with it. But I'll get an official answer and push it back out.
Yeah, I know the one that's over near the cafeteria area. That's pretty much open.
Yeah.
There may be the one of the UK school, the Belgian school. There's a few others. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, I'll check and then put out an answer.
Okay. Next question. There's only one person working the tax center.
Ooh.
There have been errors because she's overburdened. Is there a plan to increase the staffing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. The lawyers are here. So I was looking for my lifeline, the lawyers, but at the end of the day, so our legal support in this area is provided by the 21st Theater Support Command, and so from the law offices of the 21st, I turn it over to you, ma'am.
My name is Sergeant Walsh. First off, not a lawyer. Yes. But we understand. We hear you loud and clear concerning the one person. We do not have funding to hire 2 people as what we had last year. We understand that. We also had a special duty soldier last year. We do not have a special duty soldier this year. We also are basically doing volunteers only. We have 1 hire and volunteers. We can only go off the hours that the volunteers offer. For those of you that know me, and I've been here a while, I have a job outside of the tax center. I have been doing nothing but taxes for the last 2 weeks to get caught up on. We know we're behind. We are asking for volunteers. So please, we will get you trained. We will get you certified if we have that push for volunteers and someone trying to get out there. Hey, ACS will sign you up. We'll give you volunteer hours. We understand. We hear you. We're trying to address it. We're trying to get it done. So.
Okay, and so I'm going to segue off of something that she said and take a little aside here. So ACS volunteer coordinator, please, if you know people in the community or you yourself have any kind of special skill, it is worth your time to go down and sign up with the volunteer coordinators. It isn't just about you tracking your hours so that you can get put in for some sort of an award or pad your resume, although that is very useful, because if you're not working but you're volunteering, that is stuff you can put on your resume. But it also allows us as a community to figure out where there's need and where there's skills and sort of match those up. So if we had people who registered with the volunteer coordinator and into the system, and they have accounting skills and have done taxes in the past and that kind of thing, then we can reach out to them and say, hey, listen, would you be willing to help out at the tax center? So I would just throw that out there. Please, get those folks who have skills registered. We've had some very great success stories. One, we had it's not related to taxes, but we had a dental hygienist who was a family member that came over here with her spouse, could not find work as a dental hygienist, but registered and got all the hours they could ever ask for doing dental hygienist work as a volunteer. And so then when she left this community, was able to segue right into another job back in the States. So I know employment is difficult in this environment, but please register with the volunteers.
Okay, we're getting towards the end of our time here. I know it's been about an hour, so I don't want to take too much more time. I do have about 2 more questions here. I had 3, but I think you just addressed one of them, which is about dependents looking for opportunities for employment. So I know we have a volunteer center that can help out with that too. Please.
If I can add one other thing to that. So we participate in a process called the Community Health Promotion Council, which is where we as a community, the U.S. Army Garrison Benelux community, so across all 3 of the countries, with some of the communities in Germany, have what we would call a regional level venue where we discuss these kinds of things, and then we take those things and they go up to the Health Promotion Council at the U.S. Army Europe level. A very big emphasis at the U.S. Army Europe level right now is quality of life for our family members that are over here. So they're addressing very seriously things like employment opportunities and reasons why people do early return of dependence and things like that. So I will tell you that the Commanding General of U.S. Army Europe and his staff are taking a hard look at these things, and they will provide us some top cover firepower as we go back in and engage with local communities and with local governments to see if there aren't things that we can do to improve that across the board.
Okay, this question is for the clinic commander, Colonel Summons. Can there be a provider hired at the clinic, specifically a psychiatrist, that can work with kids, like a child psychiatrist?
Say that again? Okay. The answer to that question, I think the short answer is, so Congress has kind of pushed down and mandated that we will be a certain structure. We had the luxury of having a child psychologist, and he recently went back to the state for personal reasons. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that we're not going to provide the services that we've had. So please don't understand that we're degrading our services. What we're doing is we're kind of right-sizing what our footprint has been before we, started hiring a lot more. So I think I need to say that one more time. We had it, and it was a luxury. But now we're trying to right-size what our TDA, basically what we're allocated as far as personnel. In saying that, there are certain positions we won't be able to backfill, and that is one of them. As far as the services that we do have providers that should be able to see them. If not, we should be able to potentially have them on the network, because we have a lot of our network providers. I think we have 6. And if they're actually over here, we can actually send them to LARMC as well. It's a 3-hour, hike, but nonetheless, the services, we will make sure that we take care of you, how we can. But again, I cannot emphasize enough that we're not degrading our services. Where we've had the luxury of having more and being very simple or very, I should say, just a surplus of personnel, we won't be able to hire behind them. Hopefully that answers the question.
The 3 schools share a school psychologist as well, but she's 2 days at the high school. How many days at the elementary? 1 day at the elementary and 2 at the middle school. And we also have an ASACS counselor that services both the high school and middle school. And she does some family counseling and works with individual students as well. But she has a maximum that she can have on her caseload. So, we would appreciate any support that we could have with additional services if that's ever possible.
Okay. Last question here, unless there's any more from the audience. All right, this is a little more light question. Is there any way to host next year's high school prom at an off-base establishment like one of these really cool chateaus?
The answer is yes, but it takes planning and advanced planning, and it takes certain threat conditions to be in existence so that there's always a possibility things can change and then it's not there. I know it was looked at this year. It's been done in the past, so it is possible, but it also means a more expensive event for the students. So they have to weigh both of those types of things. But it is possible. I know that this year the final decision from the junior class was to have it here at the Shape Club.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions from the audience, I'd like to thank everyone for coming here. I know this does not represent the entire American community. However, we do our best to do outreach. We use radio, we use social media, and of course we use command chains, everything we can to get the word out. If you did feel like you had questions that weren't addressed, you just didn't feel like asking them, this is not the only time to ask questions. Feel free to either go through, if you have a command chain, go through them, or go to one of the support agencies around the room here. eventually. And of course, if you just don't know who else to call, the USNMR is always a great place to go to. We can usually get you where you need to go. Once again, thank you for all of the folks around the outside of the room. They're going to stay for a little bit longer, so please take some of their goodies. They don't want to take all that stuff back with them. They want to leave it and spend some time talking to them. Thank you again to our AFN folks. Thank you so much for setting all this up. To the USNMR office, thank you for running everything. To Junior ROTC BE931, thank you so much. That's a running gag, just so you guys know. BE931, thanks so much for watching the kids. And I believe there may still be some food out in the hallway. I don't smell it anymore, but there might be some still out there. Thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope you have a great rest of the spring. Enjoy the party season that's coming up. Enjoy spring break. It's really going to be a great time here in Belgium. If this is your first spring and summer in Belgium, you are in for a treat. And as I say to everyone when they come to the newcomers orientation, do not just sit there. Belgium will not come to you. You have to go out to it. You're going to have to go discover. If you just sit there, you'll just sit there in your house the whole time. And also, and one last sign off to the folks on social media, thank you very much for watching, and you have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.